Hey guys, it's me Seren back with another video. This will be my final Watchmen review. I will be reviewing episode 9 as well as talking a little bit about how I feel about the series as a whole. This video is going to be quite long, so bear with me and thank you guys so much for being patient while I got this video together. This review is going to be in the good, the bad, and the ugly format, so let's go ahead and jump right into episode 9. So basically it's revealed that Lady True's mother, Bian, was a cleaning woman in Ozymandias' office. While he was recording his message to Robert Redford, she broke in and inseminated herself with his sperm that he had in a refrigerator behind a painting. We see that years later, in 2008, so this would be 11 years before our present day setting, 2019, Lady True reveals herself to Ozymandias as his daughter. She lets him know that her mother broke in and sort of stole the sperm, and also that she is like the smartest woman in the world, and she figured out that his squid attack was staged. She's a super fan. I feel like all throughout this entire first season, I felt like it sort of showed that she's had this like weird sort of fan relationship with Ozymandias. So having it be revealed that he was actually her father, I thought was a kind of interesting twist. And when she comes to see him, she's very much playing up to his ego, very much talking about how, she's the smartest woman in the world, so of course she's his daughter, and really like playing, sort of like sucking up to him. But then she also sort of flips it on him when she calls his machine that he uses for his like squid rain, she calls it a rerun, because he reveals that it's kind of completely autonomous and that it works like completely at random, generating these squid storms, which we've seen previously, that he's designed to be like non-lethal and to just like disintegrate over time. But Lady True calls it a rerun. She says sort of like, oh, that you peaked, like, oh, you made your grand achievement, but now you're just like relying just on that. She also lets him know that Dr. Manhattan is on Europa and that she wants his power to fix the world. She says, Dr. Manhattan has all this power and he hasn't fixed the world. You tried to do, what you thought would fix the world and making your fucking squid attack, and now you're reduced to doing these reruns because things didn't go the way you planned. I'm gonna be better, than all of you. I'm gonna steal Dr. Manhattan's power for myself, and I'm gonna run the world with it. I'm sorry if I sound a little bit congested. I was sick last week, and I'm getting over it now, so sorry. She asks Ozymandias for $42 billion to build her doomsday clock in order to absorb the energy of Dr. Manhattan and transfer it into her. So we finally figure out like what exactly she's been building throughout this whole season. He refuses to give her the money and says that he will never call her daughter. And he basically gives her a "you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps" speech about how he inherited wealth. He gave it all away because he wanted to prove that he could achieve everything from nothing. And it actually ends up that this interaction between the two of them was very formative for Lady True, and even led to her even sort of more wanting Dr. Manhattan's power so she could achieve the ultimate, everything from nothing. I'm going to become the ultimate supreme being, and you're going to recognize me as your daughter. That's something that really sort of stuck to Lady True and became formative in her plan and also in the person that she is, sort of as this villain on the show. Really, really interesting twist there with Ozymandias being her father. I like that a lot. So since she initially came to him in 2008 with this plan, that's how he knew where her camera would be, because she said, she has this probe set up to take a picture of Dr. Manhattan on the whatever side of Europa. So he knew where her camera would be. That's why he was able to write like "save me, daughter" out of the bodies of, of the clones or whatever. Because she had this like extremely plotted out plan that required all this time, so he was able to sort of intervene. And Dr. Manhattan wasn't there anyway, so he was already on Earth by this time. So it's kind of interesting how all that ended up playing out. With her being literally the only person like in the world that could save him, and him having to say to her, like, save me, daughter, and acknowledge her, which is something that he never, ever, ever said that he would do in order to be saved. But again, just like, that's more of the sort of really clever, twisty writing, and also exploring of these familial relationships that I feel like the Watchmen writers did very well all season. He had the fucking headpiece on, he had the cape. It's always very funny and sort of interesting to see, like, these fucking superhero costumes on, like, real people. We idolize them in, like, films and television, but when you have these sort of hyper realistic takes like Watchmen, it's just always interesting to see how that would play out, like, in our kind of real world. The clones refuse to let him go, to let him get on the ship. He ends up stabbing the game warden. I've been wondering for the longest time, like, who is the game warden, because he's the only one that wears a mask. But it turns out he's just another one of the clones, but yet he was the first one. He was the first one that Dr. Manhattan made, and he actually ended up seeing Dr. Manhattan, like, developing Europa and then, like, making the rest of the clones. So I kind of felt like it was implied that the game warden was maybe the most human out of all of them. Because he was the first. It seems that over time, especially as they, like, keep on cloning them again and again, like, it seems like they're getting less and less human and just, like, more and more like copies. Like, they don't really seem like they have, like, independent thoughts or imagination or creativity. But I kind of feel like it was implied that the game warden was, like, representing of, like, an Adam figure in the subtext of, like, the Garden of Eden and the religious concepts that they were getting into. The fact that he was, like, the first one that Dr. Manhattan created, and that he sort of seemed like he had the most humanity even. And so Ozymandias asked him to wear the mask and, like, become the game warden to give him something to do, to keep him occupied while he was there. And he says, like, oh, I asked you to wear the mask because, like, masks make men cruel. Like, I knew once I put the mask on you, like, you were human enough that you'd give me some entertainment, something like that. And I just felt like his stabbing of the game warden was symbolic of him, like, killing Adam and, like, leaving the Garden of Eden. There were some, I felt, religious undertones there of, like, almost like that Ozymandias corrupted him, like, he gave him the mask and then he ended up, like, killing him and leaving. I don't know, there was, like, some really interesting subtext there that I thought was, getting into some religious, more the religious ideology of, like, creation and destruction, and, like, what does it mean to be, like, a human? Like, what does humanity really, like, consist of? Because, like, even Ozymandias being on, like, the planet with, like, all these clones, hundreds, thousands of fucking clones, they were not, like, actual company for him, because it was like they were not really human, It was some very interesting subplot there that I liked. So after he gets on the ship, he gets, like, frozen in this preservation material that's gold. So we see that, like, it really was him in the statue. I do feel like the timeline here gets a little bit fuzzy. It's kind of filmed and shot and edited to look like as soon as he arrived in the spaceship, they immediately, like, defrosted him or whatever because she was about to turn the machine on. And yet there are, like, other parts throughout the show, like when Angela is, like, at the terrarium where the gold statue is, like, there. So I don't know. I don't know if there were, like, maybe she had I don't know. It's the timeline is fuzzy. I don't know if she had another statue or if that was just, like, a continuity error. When I'm discussing the bad, I am going to touch on some other continuity errors that I feel were present in Watchmen. You always run the risk of this type of thing when you start messing around with, like, time loops and stuff of that nature, but I think that there were some continuity errors that, like, made things a little bit confusing. But so he arrives back, they defrost him. I'm not 100% sure when this is happening, but he knows immediately that she cloned Bian, her mother/daughter, which Bian has also suspected because her memories are coming back because she's been giving her the nostalgia. So then the cat's just out of the bag on that one. Basically, she wanted her parents to see her, Lady True, she wanted her parents to see her become Dr. Manhattan. So she has her mom there in the form of Bien, the daughter, and now she has Ozymandias, who she's like defrosted to like see her, you know, take over. And even after defrosting him, like she tells him she was surprised when her probe camera came back and she saw him in his message. And she says, like, you know, it means a lot to be acknowledged, and you know, it must have been hard to completely cave. Like she was really rubbing it in that he had to acknowledge her and ask for help, which I find it to be really interesting that as smart as a lady as Lady True is, almost to the point of like being sociopathic, like she's a sociopath, just like Ozymandias is a sociopath, she still has this desire to be seen and accepted by her father, right? And he himself plays on that in order to get her to save him. And it's funny because after the events of this episode, like Ozymandias directly leads to her demise, like the demise of Lady True. If she had just left him on Europa and not picked him up, like her plan would have succeeded. But what ends up happening is that like he fucking kills her ass with some frozen squid. Like none of that would have happened if she hadn't had this like soft spot for this like needing him to acknowledge her. Really, really interesting. And Dr. Manhattan, of course, since he experienced his time, you know, all at once, he knew all of this in advance. And I'm sure even him agreeing to like send Ozymandias to Europa in the first place was that he was knowing he would need him later. Just very interesting time manipulation. I really like the way that they're portraying the way that Dr. Manhattan, like his perspective of time. It could get confusing really fast, but they were doing a great job of like making sure that we're able to like follow with like what's going on. Anyways, after she defrosts him, he also tells her, Lady True, that Dr. Manhattan is on Earth and passing for human. She tells him that she's known about it for a while now and explains to him that she brought him back specifically so he could see her absorb Dr. Manhattan's powers, you know, so that she could become somebody and achieve everything from nothing, right? So she has a front row seat for what they're about to do. We catch back up with Cyclops, aka 7K, Senator Keene Sr., who's the young redneck's father. He's there, old as hell, in a wheelchair, looking like death personified. All of the 7K like elders, the leaders of the organization that are also like leaders in politics and in the community, and like secretly all these people are racist. They're all there to sort of witness Senator Keene become the new Dr. Manhattan. Wade is there in a Rorschach mask. We see him talking to Laurie Blake. I'm going to touch on this a little bit more in the bad, but I felt some type of way that we never exactly explicitly see like how he got out of his house. Like when they came to his house to kidnap him, that's like never explicitly resolved. He just kind of like shows up. I wish I got explained a little bit more, but whatever. He's there. He's in his mask. He's talking to Laurie Blake. They think he's like one of the 7K members. Okay, let's go along with it, whatever. Angela ends up attacking the remaining 7K member that's at her house after they have taken Cal, and she tortures him to find out where they took Dr. Manhattan. And then they all sort of end up in the same place. Like around this part of the episode, I felt like it became clear that if Lady True and 7K weren't working together, one was definitely using the other. I felt like since they both wanted him, Lady True was probably just going to end up stealing Dr. Manhattan from 7K, which is basically exactly what happened. Keene gave like some old motherfucking boring ass racist speech, the same shit he's been saying all season. It's revealed that 7K knew Dr. Manhattan was on Earth because Cal zapped one of them away when they attacked Angela's house, which we all probably figured because from that very episode where they showed what happened, we were all wondering like, how did Cal deal with the last gunman? Of course, he zapped him away. His like reflex of his powers teleported the dude to where he was born, which is Gila Flats, New Mexico. He called and was like, what the fuck? I got zapped. They knew Dr. Manhattan was still on Earth. So Angela shows up at 7K's headquarters and tells them that Lady True is using them. They don't believe her. Keene turns his machine on anyway. He gets vaporized or liquefied, whatever. And Lady True teleports all of them to her fucking like terrarium or whatever, where she kills all of the head leaders of 7K. And this part was a little bit fuzzy for me. I wasn't really sure what was happening. I know that they kill all the leaders of 7K, and they basically kill all the members of 7K at Angela's house, and also the ones that are there. I'm not exactly sure how Lady True teleported them. Like, is that what her machine does? It, like, teleports people, and then it was also gonna, like, put Dr. Manhattan's powers in her. Like, here I got a little fuzzy about, like, there was, like, a lot of machines, and I was just like, what are all these machines doing? Like, that was one part that I thought that the writing could have been cleaned up a little bit. And I also feel like 7K is, like, really, really, really inconsistent. Like, the fact that Keen gets vaporized or whatever, I felt like, so they're smart enough to, like, build this fucking cannon and, like, kidnap Dr. Manhattan. That's, like, high-level shit. But, like, nobody tested this vaporizer to see if it would, like, liquefy people. I don't know. Like, the machinery aspects of this episode got weird around this part. Like, they weren't really thought that well through. But we're just supposed to be, like, going along with it because it's the last episode. So, whatever. Let's just keep going. Of course, Lady True busts in on 7K with her machine. She basically just let 7K catch Dr. Manhattan for her. She teleports all of them to her. They kill all the members of Cyclops. Obviously, Angela's grandfather was working with Lady True to get his opportunity to completely eradicate Cyclops because they basically just destroyed the whole organization. So I can see why he did it, but to do this, obviously, he had to help her kidnap Cal, which was the trade-off, which is why he said that once Angela sort of figures out or finds out what he's done, she'll never forgive him, but he felt he had to do it. That was a satisfying conclusion. Normally when you have those type of proclamations made in stories, it can be hard to feel like you really got a satisfying conclusion, but I felt like that was pretty satisfying. Because it is true, like, he would do anything to, like, destroy 7K, even kidnap Dr. Manhattan, even though it would affect Angela. It's sort of, that's another one of these kind of, like, what would you do for the greater good, quote-unquote, questions that Watchmen likes to sort of raise and make you think about. So Cal teleports Wade, Laurie Blake, and Ozymandias away. He sends them to his headquarters in Antarctica. He does it by touching the blood of the liquefied Keen, which they're, like, all standing in. He, like, zaps them away. He has Angela stay with him so he's not alone when he dies, and then he is basically disintegrated and exploded. It's very sad. The way that they did the filming of, like, him being captured by the tachyon, like, gun, and the way that they did the scene of, like, him dying, I felt like both of those were really, really, really well done. In the comics, Dr. Manhattan is, like, butt-ass naked, and they also have him naked on the show, but I feel like it was, like, very well done. It was tastefully done. It wasn't, like, too much for me. I appreciated that they stayed true to the comics in that regard. In Ozymandias' office, Wade is basically like, what the fuck? Like, this whole episode, Wade is like, so this is where you did it. Like, you killed everybody. Like, they're not letting Ozymandias off the hook for what he did. And I really like the questions that they're raising about moral implications, the question of what is the right thing to do with power. We see this with Lady True, who has all these grand proclamations about what she's going to do, right? Like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But it's just like, when you want power so much, and ultimately what you really want is you want to prove yourself to your father. You want to scratch these, like, emotional itches, right, that you have. That's what you really want to do with this power. Should you really get it, right? Like, Dr. Manhattan was an accident. He wasn't trying to get power. And Ozymandias says that anyone who wants to become a god should be stopped. And then they're, like, looking at him, and he's like, it takes one to know one. Like, Ozymandias will kill everybody to get to one person. Even what he ends up doing, his plan for fucking shutting down Lady True, is he fucking stabilizes one of his squid rain clouds over a 5-block radius where her machine is, and he lowers the temperature, so it's, like, raining down, like, frozen solid fucking squid, fucking shrimp. All I could think about was shrimp cocktail, which is probably fucked up, but all I could think about was, like, he's raining shrimp cocktail on people. In a 5-block radius, you're gonna kill everybody in a 5-block radius just to get Lady True. Like, you have not changed. Like, you will kill everyone just for one person. Like, you don't even deserve to have this power either, Ozymandias. So Lori calls Angela. She calls her on the phone, tells her they need to take cover because he's about to kill all of them with frozen squid. A fucking squid goes through the hand of Lady True before they basically break apart her machine and cause it to collapse on her, and it kills her. It's a bit ridiculous. It's a bit of a ridiculous death. It's very, like I said, cartoony. I kept just thinking of Shrimp Cocktail. I don't know, maybe that's weird, maybe that's just me, but whatever, it's fine. Angela runs into the theater to take cover, and her grandfather is sitting in there, and I was just like, man, she's been trying to find this man the whole show. She was searching for this man in Lady True's compound and figured out she was hooked up to a fucking elephant. Like, I'm glad she has finally found this old dude. Like, and he's just sitting there watching over her kids who are asleep. He talks about sitting in that same exact theater as a child and his mother playing the piano, which we know has been a running theme throughout his life and a running thread throughout his memories, you know, a formative moment, a core memory, as they'd call it, an Inside Out. He talks about how he put on the hood out of fear, and how hoods and masks basically just allow you to hide from your feelings. And I just thought, like, you know, we haven't seen Angela in her Sister Night costume in a while, but I enjoy how they continue to explore the themes of, like, why do people wear masks, right? Like, after Angela was attacked by 7K, she put the mask on out of fear of being recognized, out of fear of what happened, fear of being recognized as a cop, you know. But she also enjoyed the fact that she could beat the shit out of people, you know, act out her anger and rage with impunity where she has the mask on. That's something that, you know, we see why fucking Mirror Guy, Looking Glass, wears his mask that's made out of the reflective, you know, material that's meant to protect him from, like, psychic attacks. And the fact that it's even a mirror is, like, representative of, like, him being in the Hall of Mirrors when the attack happened. You know, like, these people are wearing masks, and the masks are, like, representative of, like, the emotional fucking shit that they're trying to hide from. Very, I know I keep saying interesting stuff, but, like, they were unpacking a lot of really complex ideas, I felt, in this show. So her grandfather explains that the plan was Dr. Manhattan's idea, and that Cal went to the grandfather first to make the deal to end Cyclops and also to take down Lady True, because again, the way that he experienced his time all at once, he knew exactly what would happen. So it was sort of like, again, the thing about a time loop is, you know, it goes around and around. He knew what was going to happen, and so it happened. And he knew what was going to happen, so it happened. And he knew what was going to happen, so it happened. So that, I think, played out as best as it could. We see back at Ozymandias' office in Antarctica, they show Archie, which is a vehicle from Canon Watchmen, cute little Easter egg there for, like, OG Watchmen fans. And then Laurie Blake fucking arrests Ozymandias for his role in the squid attack. And Wade has the DVD explanation that Ozymandias made for Redford as evidence, which I was really glad to see, like, Wade and Lori arrest this nigga. Like, that was something that really traumatized the fuck out of Wade, that squid attack. So it was good to really just see him get his comeuppance by arresting Ozymandias. Like, Ozymandias is shocked when they arrest him. He really believes that he acted for the greater good, despite the fact that he keeps killing innocent people with his, like, solutions. You know, you're supposed to be so smart, but you can't come up with a solution that doesn't involve needless death, even with what you just did with Lady True. You, like, were pelting people with shrimp. I mean, frozen squid, sorry. So them arresting him was extremely satisfying. Angela takes the kids home. She also invites the grandfather to live with her, which I think will be really nice. And she sees the mess that she made of the eggs when she was arguing with Dr. Manhattan before he got captured. She goes to clean it up. One of the eggs in the carton is not broken. We already saw that when they first met and they had their whole conversation about him possibly putting his power into something like an egg. And then if you consume it, you will have the powers. Even though she fucking slammed the carton down, this particular egg didn't break. She also remembered that conversation. She eats the egg and then she tries to go walk on water on the pool, which is what we saw him do earlier, and he said it was important. And the episode ends on a cliffhanger right when she's putting her foot to the water. So I know a lot of people don't like cliffhanger endings because a season 2 is never guaranteed. Obviously, they're expecting a season 2. I'm just going to say that For me personally, I think she got his powers. I think she's going to be the new Dr. Manhattan. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out next season. Overall, I felt this was a solid episode and a solid ending to what was really a great show, a great first season. I stand by my statement that I've said previously that everything directly involving Angela was like fantastically well written, and other plot lines fell somewhat flat. You can tell that some things were just kind of left by the wayside, ideas that were never picked back up. Hopefully they'll be able to get into them season 2, but I'm actually going to use this to segue into the bad so I can talk about some of these things in detail. So the bad, now that we've wrapped up all of season 1, I have to say I was a little disappointed by the lack of information that we were given about her old partner, who's the parents of these kids that she's now raising, these 3 little white kids. We know that her partner was killed, and that's really all we know. We don't know anything else about her partner. I feel like we've never even seen this person. Again, maybe this is something that they plan on getting into in season 2, but like I think we could have been given like a little bit more information about this person. They just act like her partner never existed. Like they really truly act like as if these are their biological children. They never talk about. I mean, and these kids are old enough that, like, I'm sure they know, like, other, like, cousins and family members. It's, like, that was, like, a big empty space for me, the lack of information on her old partner. I also felt like Lady True had a little bit of an anticlimactic ending. Like I said, I felt like the workings of the machines got really confusing there for a while. The timeline got a little bit fuzzy on why things were happening, when they were happening. We never really see what her machine does. I guess they felt like it had to be stopped before she got the power, obviously, but I don't know. After all this like talk about like the big machine, I felt like it was just a little bit of a letdown for me. And I thought her death like was a little bit ridiculous. I sort of wish that she had been killed directly by someone, Angela or Ozymandias or somebody. I don't know. I just thought maybe she deserved a little bit of a better death than being crushed by falling shrimp cocktail. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like there were a lot of things that were like concepts that were introduced that were not fully explored. I also felt like the clones on the planet of Jupiter were not really fully explored or utilized. I was confused about like their aging process. Like they clearly have an accelerated aging process because he was only there 8 years, and in that time he made like hundreds or thousands of like fully mature like adult clones. How exactly do they age? Does he have to like explain to all of them what's going on? Do they have some type of pre-setting? I don't know. Like they're not even all there in terms of like consciousness. It's still fuzzy to me about why they were like so against him leaving. Like why were the clones like so against him leaving? Have they just been programmed that way? I don't know. I felt like there were things that were hinted at but never really explained with the clones. Like I said, there were some continuity errors in this episode and also over the course of this season. I'm not sure how long it takes for the clones to reach full maturity. There was confusion as for the timetable of when Ozymandias arrived and was defrosted. We see his gold statue throughout the season, so it would appear he's been there for a while. But then the last episode is set up like as if he arrived and they immediately took him out of the gold preservation material, like as if it took him all these years to get back. I also have some questions about the way that nostalgia works, because all the Dr. Manhattan stuff, like the whole Dr. Manhattan plot, none of that was in Will Reeves' memories that Angela took. So like, how exactly does nostalgia work? Like, is it just hand-picked memories? I thought they were acting like it's every memory you've ever had. But otherwise, the granddad's memories of, like, Dr. Manhattan coming to see him and, like, that plan and stuff would all be in there. So, obviously, it was just, like, memories that he cherry-picked for her to have. I don't know. That seems like a plot hole to me. Like, you have a whole device where people can consume other people's memories, and yet she did not consume not one memory that had to do with this big-ass plan that y'all been working on for 8 years. I don't know. That seemed like a plot hole to me. we should have been given a little bit more explanation of how nostalgia worked then, if you're gonna have her consume his memories. But like this really important memory just so happens to not be in there. It's a little bit convenient. As I've said previously, how exactly Wade got out of his house when 7K came to his house is never explicitly resolved. We just jumped to him being in 7K headquarters wearing a Rorschach mask, you know, saving Lori Blake, talking to her. I guess we're meant to assume that he killed all of them and tortured one for information, similar to what we see Angela do, and then put on a Rorschach mask himself and infiltrated. But literally, if that's what happened, it happens off screen. And the last that we saw of Wade, it was set up like as if he fought back against him and they kidnapped him. What exactly happened, we never know. We never actually see. So I guess he just like got out of it somehow. I feel like that shit was like 7-on-1. Like, how exactly did he get out of it? And I feel like the depiction of 7K, like on a whole, was like a bit unreliable. It's like, when you need to defeat them 1-on-7, you can defeat them 1-on-7. When you need them to be dumb and like get fucking liquefied by their own machine, they're dumb. When you need them to be fucking smart and figuring out how to build fucking tachyon lasers and working out this whole plan to kidnap Dr. Manhattan, like, oh, they're smart. When we need them to be smart, they're smart. When we need them to be dumb, they're dumb. Like, I really found it ridiculous that they would have like never tested their machine out, like not even on a watermelon or something. Like, they don't have a fail-safe in place. Like, I don't know, I felt like Keen like popping himself like that was also kind of dumb and anticlimactic. I feel like they were trying to inject some weird humor, just like the episode where they like dropped a fucking second Silk Spectre in the hole and she didn't fall immediately and she was like hitting the button. She was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, they sometimes try to put this weird humor in there and it has not worked any of the times. So I kind of felt like Keen popping himself in the machine, we're supposed to think it's funny, but it just seems dumb. Like, why is 7K dumb when you need them to be, and really smart when you need them to be really smart? Like, not that they're coming back, because they pretty much wiped out all of 7K, so whatever. But like, that's a gripe I have with there was a very uneven portrayal of the way that they operate. Now we've reached the end. There were plot points that were definitely never picked back up, like Lube Man, that watched Angela dismantle and throw away her fucking grandfather's wheelchair. We never saw Lube Man again, ever. Again, obviously they're planning on a season 2 because we end on a cliffhanger. Hopefully they pick up these plot lines in season 2. Maybe they'll just be abandoned. Maybe they decided it was not important as they move forward through season 1. But I don't know. That's always just like a little bit of a grinding my gears when you have plot points that were introduced and then never picked back up. I do think that the writers in some areas of the show bit off more than they could chew. While they were still trying to kind of rearrange and put together the pieces of Angela's backstory, they had other things going on and subplots that ended up either not being important to the main plot or, you know, not being relevant, and so they were never brought back up. But some of them were really interesting. Like, I want to know who that person was, and that person was a witness to what she did. So it's kind of interesting that they never brought that back up. I guess we'll see how it goes in season 2, if they reintroduce some of these things or if it's just dropped. But I'm actually going to use that to get into the ugly, because I do have some ugly for season 1. The relationship between Hooded Justice and Captain Metropolis was a big thumbs down. It was my largest issue with this season of this show. I felt that the writing was really bad and ridiculous, and I feel like they've been having some trouble linking back to the original Watchmen canon. Their original story with Angela Abar and her being Sister Night and sort of working that back to Hooded Justice was obviously really clearly and well plotted out. And I feel like a lot of the subplots of the show that did not have to do with that came across as afterthoughts. And I also felt like the entire handling of the relationship between Hooded Justice and Captain Metropolis was extremely poorly done. It definitely seemed like, well, you know, in the comics, Hooded Justice is gay and he has a relationship with Captain Metropolis, so we just have to sort of find a way to sort of shoehorn it in. I don't really think there was enough care given to the story. And I actually have been talking with people and hearing how they feel about it, and I feel like there were three possible options that could have been better. Number one, if they insisted on the two of them being in a relationship, I actually would have preferred a 5 to 7 minute montage during the Hooded Justice episode where we see the original Minutemen fighting. I felt like that was a letdown of the show, that we never actually saw the original Minutemen fight, not once. So I feel like in that episode, instead of like that sex scene, which I think they included strictly for shock value, like they just wanted to shock us, but it was really, I thought, a waste of time, because we never actually see a relationship grow between Hooded Justice and Captain Metropolis. So instead of that fucking sex scene designed to shock us, we could have had Captain Metropolis come to visit him at his home. He agrees to work with them, and then we get a nice montage of the original Minutemen fighting and the relationship growing between them over time. And then everything else could have been exactly the same. That after the relationship grows over time, he grows separated from his wife over time. He thinks that, you know, they have a real relationship, and yet Captain Metropolis still won't help him fight 7K. You know, all the other stuff could have remained the same, and yet now we actually have a good foundation of solid writing that makes everything that's happening believable. Because in what they gave us, we didn't have that. That was option number one. Option two, I feel like they could have had it that Captain Metropolis was actually in 7K and that he was controlling Will using the mind control, the whatever, the hypnosis or the fucking shit that he uses, the flashlight, to kill the chief. I felt like that was a way underused plot device. You have fucking hypnosis, and we literally only see it like once or twice. Like, I feel like the hypnosis should have been like way bigger in the context of the show. Again, maybe this is something that they're going to bring back for season 2, but I think that it would have been a really interesting twist to have Captain Metropolis be in 7K himself and have him be controlling Hooded Justice using the hypnosis. I think that would have just been a really, really, really interesting twist and an interesting way to sort of introduce more of the hypnotism into the show. I was also talking to Anthony, shout out to Anthony, and we were talking about some of these options, and he had a really good suggestion as well, was that he thought the storyline was going to play out that her grandfather, Will Reeves, refused to help and refused to become part of the original Minutemen, and so they made a false Hooded Justice. Because it's under a hood, like, it could be anybody. So even though her grandfather was the real Hooded Justice, they, like, put a white man in his place, and they took, you know, the shine off him, they took the glory off of him. Which I really even, like, I love that idea. Like, even that would have packed, like, a serious emotional punch in the terms of things that are created by Black people and Black Americans being stolen by white people. Like, they had so many options that they could have went with, and instead, again, they gave us, they really didn't give us anything. They never really gave us a full sort of nuanced exploration of the wife or the Captain Metropolis relationship. They just threw in a sex scene for shock value and asked us to kind of go along with the ride. That tells us, you know, the canon says it's so, so it's so. We don't have to actually give you a good backstory. It's just like, well, the canon says it, so whatever, let's move on. That was my biggest gripe with this show, with season 1. I probably would have said that this was a really amazing, maybe even close to perfect season, with the really sharp, clever, witty writing, the exploration of some really morally ambiguous ideas and concepts, but they just really dropped the ball on the writing of that relationship. So this is my thoughts on Watchmen episode 9 as well as season 1 overall. I know this video is a bit long and it took me a little while to upload it, but hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you guys are having a great December, and if you're watching this on Christmas Day, which you might be, happy Christmas, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.